Hello. I'm really glad you're here with me tonight. This hour feels separate from every other part of the day, doesn't it? It asks nothing demanding from you. No decisions that carry weight. No roles to step into. No explanations you owe anyone. No performance to maintain. No pace you have to match. It simply opens a quiet door and says, "Come inside. Lie down now. Let your arms and legs grow heavy. Let your eyelids settle. Let your thoughts float as slowly as they want, like fallen leaves on the surface of a calm river, moved only by the gentlest breath of wind as the years have quietly layered themselves. One sunrise blending into the next sunset. One season easing into another. Nighttime has become something like a patient, familiar friend. A friend who arrives without knocking loudly, who sits beside you in silence, if that's what you need, who never interrupts your reverie or rushes you toward conclusions. A wide, enveloping darkness where the mind is finally free to wander without maps or deadlines or interruptions from the outside world. Memories rise one by one, not in frantic waves, but with a courteous patience, each one waiting politely for you to notice, to feel its texture, to let it linger for a moment before it drifts onward. Understanding doesn't burst in with fanfare. It settles slowly, like fine snow accumulating on branches through a long winter night. Soft, steady, silent, wordless. In these later years, the mind no longer hurries the way it once did, back when you were 30 or 40 or even 55 or 60. Back then, thoughts raced and collided, plans multiplying like rabbits in spring. Worries stacking like unpaid letters on the hall table. Tomorrow, always overflowing with must-dos and should-dos and what-ifs. Now the rhythm has softened considerably. The mind prefers to linger, to reflect, to revisit old scenes with fresh eyes. It turns moments over slowly, like smooth stones found on a beach, noticing how light catches differently on them now. A conversation from 30 years ago suddenly connects to a feeling you had yesterday afternoon. A small act of kindness you offered once echoes in the thank you someone gave you last week. A childhood fear you buried long ago resurfaces and, in the quiet, looks smaller, less frightening. These gentle connections happen most naturally when the house has grown completely still, when lamps are off, when the entire restless, noisy world has finally surrendered to sleep and left you alone with your own company. This dark, unhurried hour is made especially for those thoughts, the ones that rarely find breathing room during daylight, when there are groceries to buy, appointments to keep, meals to prepare, people to call or check on. Small tasks that fill every corner of time. The thoughts that only emerge when you're horizontal, when the body has stopped its daily motion, when the only sounds are your own slow breathing, perhaps the faint creak of the house cooling, or the distant murmur of wind brushing leaves against the window pane. Resting, remembering, gently turning the pages of a very long, richly textured life, not to criticize or rewrite or punish yourself, but simply to witness, to hold space for, to make a quiet kind of peace with everything that has been. So let us begin very slowly, very tenderly. Take one slow breath in through your nose, if that feels easy. Feel the cool air travel quietly down. Gently expand your chest. Perhaps let your belly soften and rise a little too. Now let it out slowly, through your mouth or nose, whichever is more comfortable. Long and easy, like releasing a sigh you've been holding since early afternoon. Again, in, a tiny pause if it feels natural. And out, even longer, even softer. Let your body begin to give its full weight to the mattress. Let the pillow cradle the back of your head completely. Let the blankets settle their gentle pressure across your shoulders, your chest, your hips, your legs, exactly the right amount of warmth and security. Allow this night to meet you right here, right now, exactly as you are. No need to be stronger, younger, more alert, more anything. Just as you are is enough. If this kind of patient, honest, heart-level reflection feels like it wraps around something tired and true inside you, if it brings even a small sense of companionship, perhaps when you feel ready, you might like this video and subscribe so these calm, late-night voices can find you again on other quiet evenings. And if it feels comforting, leave a short note in the comments when the moment is right. Tell me the name of your city or town or neighborhood where you're lying awake or drifting tonight. What the clock says in these small hours. Maybe even a word about the weather outside your window. Rain drumming softly on the roof. Frost making patterns on the glass. Stars sharp in a clear, cold sky. Or the hush of fresh snow. There's a quiet sweetness in knowing that right now, across different time zones, different seasons, different roofs and windows, other people much like you, are lying in their own beds, breathing their own slow breaths, letting similar thoughts rise and fall like far-off ocean waves. We are scattered across the map, but in these still, late hours when everything quiets, we are gathered here together in a kind of invisible circle. Adjust your pillows one more time if they need a little shift. One supporting the curve of your neck just right, another tucked between your knees if that eases pressure on your lower back or hips. Find the position where your spine feels long and neutral, where your shoulders aren't creeping upward, where your hands and arms rest without tension. Palms facing up or down, arms by your sides or folded gently across your stomach. Whatever position tonight whispers, feels safest and most comfortable. Know that as long as this gentle voice keeps speaking, you're not alone. With the wisdom you've gathered across so many years, with the understandings you've earned through living day after day, with the small and large truths that only seem to surface when the rest of the world has dimmed its lights and gone silent. Let's continue, slowly. You're lying here now, wrapped in deep quiet. The day has finally loosened its hold on you. All those little threads that tugged at your attention throughout the hours. The mental list of things not yet done. The email you meant to answer. The phone call you postponed. The careful navigation of a conversation. The small acts of care you offered others. They've all been set down, like heavy bags placed carefully by the door after a very long walk home. Tonight, you don't have to be the reliable one, the one everyone turns to for advice or a listening ear, the one who remembers everyone's preferences and birthdays and doctor's appointments, the one who keeps things steady so others can lean. You can simply be yourself, the private, unguarded self that exists when no eyes are watching, when no expectations are waiting, the self that carries memories like old photographs kept in a drawer, edges soft from years of gentle handling. The self that has walked enough decades, felt enough seasons, loved enough and lost enough to know deep in your bones what truly carries weight and what, looking back across the years, was only passing noise. Rest in these later years has its own unique depth, its own quiet texture. When you were 20 or 30, sleep was almost instinctive. You fell into it like stepping backward into warm water, swift, trusting, complete. You woke feeling restored, body eager, mind already leaping ahead to the day. Sleep didn't require negotiation or patience. It simply came when called. Now the arrival is slower, more deliberate, more intimate. It asks for patience with the body that has changed over time, gentleness toward joints that announce themselves more often, toward skin that tells its own long story in lines and spots, toward energy that ebbs earlier than it used to. It asks you to meet yourself here, tonight, not the self preserved in old photographs, not the self you sometimes wish you could still be, but this self, in this particular body, in this particular to bed, breathing this particular breath. You've earned this rest in the most fundamental way, not through trophies or titles or endless productivity. You've earned it simply by continuing, by opening your eyes each morning, even on mornings when grief or fatigue made the room feel too heavy to face, by putting one foot in front of the other through joyful seasons and heartbreaking ones and ordinary grey ones. You've carried enough, worries that kept you awake, responsibilities that felt endless, love that asked everything and gave everything back in its own way. Tonight, there is no more lifting, no more holding up, no more striving. Tonight is for release, for allowing gravity to pull you downward, for trusting that you can lie here, breathing, existing, without needing to accomplish, produce, perform, or prove a single thing. Feel the room around you now. You know it so intimately, it's almost part of you. You know exactly how the light from the hallway nightlight or the street lamp outside slips through that one narrow gap in the curtains, painting a thin silver stripe across the floor. You know the particular soft creak the floorboards make when the house cools after midnight. You know the faint scents that live here, perhaps the clean cotton of freshly washed sheets, or the old wood of the dresser that belonged to your parents, or the lavender sachet someone tucked into the drawer years ago that still releases a whisper of fragrance when you open it. You know the sounds that belong, the furnace or baseboard heater clicking on at its usual hour, the neighbor's dog giving one sleepy bark before settling, the occasional sigh of pipes, the distant hum of a refrigerator that has hummed the same note for decades. This level of familiarity is a quiet, profound gift. After all the bedrooms you've slept in across a lifetime, childhood rooms shared with siblings, walls thin enough to hear parents talking late, college dorms smelling of instant noodles and late-night studying, first apartments with echoing floors and neighbors you never met, family homes alive with children's laughter and teenage music and slammed doors, smaller places after the children left or after life changed shape. This room right now receives you. It has held your restless nights when worry wouldn't let go. It has held your peaceful nights when sleep came easily. It has listened to your breathing change from shallow and quick to slow and deep. It is safe. It is familiar. It is yours for tonight. Let your body sink more fully into the mattress beneath you. Notice how it accepts every part of your weight without complaint, without pushing back. No demand for movement, no expectation of energy, just steady, silent, unwavering support. Let your shoulders drop another small distance. They've been carrying tension you didn't fully register during the day. Let your jaw unclench. Teeth part slightly if they've been held together. Tongue rest softly behind your lower teeth. Let your hands rest open. Fingers loose, uncurled. No gripping or holding on. Let your feet and ankles grow heavy. Toes spread and relax one by one. Each small region of your body quietly receiving the same gentle message. It's safe to stop bracing now. It's safe to let go. It's safe to rest completely. Breathe in once more, slowly and without force. Feel the air move down easily, and breathe out long and soft. This rhythm, in, out, has been your constant companion since the moment you took your first breath outside your mother's body. Millions upon millions of breaths, each one a small, faithful miracle, allowing another heartbeat, another dawn, another meal shared with someone you loved, another tear dried, another laugh remembered years later. You almost never stop to notice breathing. It happens in the background, automatic, generous, tireless. But tonight, in this hush, you do notice. And in the noticing, a quiet wave of gratitude rises inside you. Thank you, lungs, for every inhale. Thank you, heart, for every steady beat. Thank you, body, for every breath that has kept me here through childhood winters, youthful summers, middle years of striving, and these later seasons of quiet. Thank you for still letting me feel the cool press of the sheet against my skin, hear the faint night sounds outside, taste the memory of today's last cup of tea, remember faces and voices long gone. The years sit differently on you now. When you were young, the future felt like an endless open field, always more time, always another chance, always tomorrow to fix what went wrong, to become who you dreamed of becoming, to make up for yesterday. Now you see how the path narrows in places, how the miles pass more quickly than anyone could have prepared you for. The person you once sketched in your mind at 25 and the person lying here breathing tonight, they share many qualities, but they diverge in others. There are accomplishments you never planned, detours you didn't choose but learned from, surprises that brought unexpected joy, regrets that still visit occasionally, and slowly, over many seasons of living, you've come to a gentle acceptance. This is the life I've lived, not the one I imagined in detail, not flawless, not without sorrow, but real, mine, full of moments that mattered, shaped by choices and chance and love and loss. All those decades still live inside you. Thousands of mornings when light first touched your face and you opened your eyes to a new day. Thousands of evenings when you closed doors, turned off lights, and let the world shrink to the size of your bedroom. Decisions large and small, some you weighed for weeks or months, some you made in a heartbeat of instinct. Relationships that bloomed like unexpected flowers in spring. Relationships that withered despite care. Relationships that endured storms you never thought you'd weather. Conversations you can replay word for word even now. Some that healed, some that wounded, some that changed the direction of your path. Ordinary days that felt unremarkable when you lived them, but now glow in memory because they were part of the long, unbroken chain. Extraordinary days. First steps of a child. Vows spoken under nervous laughter. Hands held through final breaths that etched themselves permanently into your heart. All of it has formed the person resting here tonight. Even the parts you wish had unfolded differently. Especially those, because the missteps taught empathy you couldn't have learned any other way. The heartbreaks taught a tenderness that softer times could never have given. The failures taught humility and the courage to begin again. The apologies, both given and received, taught grace. Pause for a gentle moment, softly, without pressure. And think of your younger self, the 20-year-old so full of plans and certainty about how life would unfold. The 30-year-old worrying over choices that now seem small from this distance. The 40-year-old convinced certain pains would never fade. The 50-year-old still believing there was endless time to rewrite chapters. The 60-year-old navigating changes you never anticipated. If you could lean across all those years and speak quietly to them, what would you say? Perhaps something simple and true. Dear one, you're going to make it through. The nights that feel endless, you'll wake to morning light again. The losses that seem unbearable, you'll learn to carry them with love instead of despair. You'll laugh again in rooms you can't yet picture. You'll find people who stay through seasons you didn't know existed. You'll rest again. It will be okay. Not perfect, not without scars, but okay. More than okay. Rich in ways you can't see yet. You cannot travel back to deliver those words in person. But you can lie here in this present breath, holding all those earlier selves with great tenderness. The frightened child who hid under covers during thunderstorms. The ambitious teenager dreaming of futures too big to fail. The young parent exhausted but determined to get it right. The middle-aged person grieving changes no one warned you about. They all still live somewhere inside. In memories. In the way your hands move. In the shape of your thoughts. They all contributed pieces to who breathes here tonight. They all deserve your compassion, your patience, your forgiveness for the things they could not yet know or understand. At this stage of life, you perceive truths the younger versions of you simply didn't have enough seasons to see. You understand that almost every person you ever judged harshly or resented was doing their very best with the tools, the wounds, the knowledge, the exhaustion they carried at that moment. You understand that complete certainty is a rare guest. Doubt, uncertainty, second-guessing, wondering, these are the ordinary furniture of a human life. You understand that love is almost never simple or linear, that family carries invisible threads of patterns, repeating across generations, that every close relationship needs ongoing small repairs, listening again, apologizing again, choosing kindness again, choosing forgiveness again. You understand that success, rarely looks like the polished version in books or movies. Sometimes it's just getting through a difficult winter with a shred of dignity. Sometimes it's keeping a promise to yourself to rest when you need it. That happiness usually arrives in modest, humble containers. The warmth of the first sip of morning coffee, a voice on the phone that knows your history without explanation, sunlight slanting across the kitchen floor, exactly the way it did when you were small, the smell of bread baking or rain on warm pavement. That peace is not the total absence of struggle. It's the slow, hard-earned ability to walk beside struggle without letting it steal your breath, define your worth, or close your heart. These insights were not sudden lightning strikes or dramatic revelations shouted from mountaintops. They were laid down gradually, layer upon layer, year upon year, tear upon tear, laugh upon laugh, mistake upon mistake redeemed, through watching people you loved choose paths you would never have chosen and loving them anyway, through making your own choices, some wise, some foolish, and living with the long unfolding of their consequences, through failing in ways that stung deeply, then rising anyway because there was no other choice, through grieving so thoroughly that you thought the sorrow would never end, and discovering that grief and love are not opposites. They are braided together so tightly they cannot be separated. You've lost people along this long journey. This may be the heaviest, most unrelenting lesson of living many years. People leave. Some leave suddenly, like a candle snuffed out in one breath. Some drift gradually, conversations thinning to messages, then to occasional thoughts, then to silence. Some change so profoundly that the person you once knew by heart becomes almost unrecognizable, a stranger wearing a face you remember. Friendships that once felt as necessary as air become occasional likes on a screen, then fade entirely. Marriages end in paperwork or endure but transform into shapes you could never have predicted on your wedding day. Children grow into adults with lives full and busy and separate, no longer revolving around yours, which is as it should be, even if the house feels quieter than you ever imagined it would. Parents grow frail, diminish, and one day are gone forever, leaving an orphan feeling that no age can protect you from. Each departure carved out a space inside you, left silences where voices used to answer, created hollows where shared rituals once lived, Sunday dinners with too much food, holiday traditions repeated year after year, late-night talks when the rest of the world slept. Some absences still catch you unexpectedly in quiet moments, early mornings before the day begins. Late nights like this one, when the mind is unguarded and honest. The heart remembers the exact shape of the missing person. The throat tightens, the eyes fill. Yet time, slow, patient, sometimes merciless time, has taught you to carry those absences differently. The first raw, tearing pain of fresh loss has, for many of them, softened into something quieter, more integrated, something that allows you to think of the person and smile at a memory, feel love without being overwhelmed or destroyed by the absence. You've come to understand that grief is not a task to complete, not a hurdle to clear and leave behind forever. It is not cured. It is not finished. It is woven into who you are now, like a thread of a different color running through the whole cloth. It becomes part of your inner landscape, the empty chair that still feels empty, the voice that no longer answers the phone on the first ring, the hand you can no longer reach for in the night. And in some mysterious, painful, beautiful way, grief deepens love. It teaches you, down in your bones, the fragility of every shared moment. It reminds you to linger a little longer over coffee with someone still here, to say the words before the chance passes, to listen more carefully, because time is not infinite, because people are not permanent. And yet, thankfully, there are still people who are here with you. The friend from decades ago who still remembers the stories no one else can verify, who can finish your sentences and laugh at jokes no one else understands. The sibling who shares the same childhood smells and sounds and secrets, who remembers the house you grew up in exactly as it was. The partner who has seen every version of you, youthful energy and midlife fatigue and late life quiet, and stayed anyway. The grown child who has become not only someone you love by nature, but someone you genuinely like, respect, enjoy spending time with, learn from. These long-haul relationships carry a rare intimacy earned through decades. A language made of glances, silences, small gestures that need few words. You know each other's tender spots, warning signs, unspoken rules. You can sense when something is off from the tone of a single hello on the phone or the way someone stirs their tea. You know which topics to approach with care and which to leave untouched for now. These people have witnessed your changes, physical, emotional, in priorities, in perspective. They hold memories of earlier versions of you that you've almost forgotten yourself. They safeguard pieces of your history that would disappear without them. Being so deeply known is a double-edged gift, comforting because you are accepted fully, flaws and all, vulnerable because the mistakes are seen too, the impatience shown in a hard moment, the selfishness in a tired season, the harsh word spoken in anger, the times you withdrew when someone needed closeness. You cannot erase those moments. You can only acknowledge them. Make amends where amends are still possible. Offer yourself the forgiveness you would offer a beloved friend who stumbled. Keep trying, imperfectly, humanly, to do better with whatever days remain. Your body has written its own long, honest autobiography across the decades. You haven't always read it with kindness or attention. In younger years, you pushed it hard, late nights without regard for tomorrow, meals grabbed on the run instead of savored, signals of fatigue or pain dismissed as something to power through. You treated its resilience as a given, as if youth's quick recovery and boundless energy were permanent features. You fed it convenience more often than nourishment at times, moved it when mood dictated rather than consistency, ignored small warnings until they became louder calls for care. Now the body speaks in different tones. Joints greet you with stiffness after sitting too long in one position. Energy reserves deplete earlier in the day than they once did. Healing from even minor strains takes more time. Tasks that once required no forethought, carrying bags, buttoning a shirt, getting out of a low chair, now sometimes ask for planning, assistance, or a moment of adjustment. Accepting these changes can feel like a private, ongoing mourning. For the body that ran without effort lifted without strain, danced without self-consciousness, stayed awake through nights of joy or crisis without complaint. That morning is real and honest. It is allowed. It is part of honoring what was. But consider this body tonight, the one lying here, breathing quietly, feeling the texture of the sheet against skin, hearing the night's small sounds through the window. This body has carried you faithfully through every single chapter of your life, through childhood fevers and scraped knees, through teenage adventures and broken hearts, through adult pregnancies or long work hours or illnesses that frightened you, through grief so heavy you thought your legs would give way, through joys so large they made your chest ache with fullness. It has survived viruses you weren't sure you'd recover from, injuries that should have slowed you more than they did, stresses you barely named at the time. It has adapted to hormonal changes, to slower metabolism, to the simple arithmetic of accumulating years. It still allows you to taste the sweetness of ripe fruit, feel cool air on your face after rain, hear birds greeting dawn, touch the hand of someone you love, smell coffee brewing or pine trees or fresh bread. This body deserves gratitude now, gentle care, rest without apology, appreciation for its endurance. Your body knows how to sleep. It has done this faithfully for tens of thousands of nights. The ancient circuitry deep in your brainstem, the same circuitry every human has relied on since the beginning, remembers the sequence perfectly. Slow the heart rate, release the large muscles, quiet the surface chatter of the mind, shift into deeper, slower waves of rest. You don't have to conduct any of it. You don't have to earn it or force it or worry it into being. You only have to stop fighting it. Stop monitoring every sensation. Stop judging whether sleep is coming fast enough. Just allow, just breathe. Just trust the ancient, reliable knowing inside you. Recall, softly, without hurry or strain, the many beds you've known across the years. The narrow childhood bed under a hand-stitched quilt that smelled faintly of mothballs and safety, with a nightlight casting soft shadows on the wall. The dorm mattress that sagged in the middle but felt like pure freedom because it was yours alone. The first real adult bed, perhaps a second-hand frame with mismatched sheets where independence tasted sharp and exhilarating. The bed shared with early love, hearts beating close in the dark, bodies learning each other. The family bed through sleepless nights, with feverish children, through arguments resolved in whispered apologies, through quiet mornings when no words were needed because presence was enough. Beds in houses bought with hope and dreams, beds in apartments taken after upheaval or loss, beds in quieter places after children moved out or partners changed or health required smaller spaces. Some beds were cloud soft and enveloping. Some were hard and unforgiving but still offered rest. Some rooms felt like sanctuaries from the world. Some felt lonely or temporary until you made them home. But night after night, year after year, decade after decade, you lay down in them. You rose in the mornings, even the mornings when rising felt like the heaviest task imaginable, and you continued. That steady continuation is worth recognizing tonight. Not as dramatic heroism, not as loud triumph over adversity, just as the persistent, unglamorous, daily choice to keep showing up, For yourself when no one else could. For others when they needed it. For the life that kept unfolding, whether you felt ready or not. You've shown up in countless ways, large and small. Sat with friends through their darkest nights when words failed. Listened when speaking would have been easier or more comfortable. Celebrated victories that weren't yours without envy. Offered the ride to the appointment, the meal when someone was grieving, the hug when words weren't enough, the forgiveness when it was hard to give. So much of it was invisible labor, the kind that never makes headlines, never earns awards, never gets thanked in public. The kind that is only truly noticed when it is missing. Of course, it was never perfect. There were times you weren't there, when presence was desperately needed. Times your own pain or exhaustion blinded you to someone else's struggle. Times you spoke too sharply, withdrew too completely, disappointed someone who trusted you. Those moments live in you too. They surface in silent hours like this one when defenses are low, but they do not define the entire story. The moments when your presence mattered, the listening ear at the right time, the steady hand extended, the kind word offered without expectation. Those matter just as deeply. Both truths can live side by side. Both can be held with gentleness tonight. You've come to know mortality, not as an abstract concept discussed in philosophy classes, not as something that happens to distant old people, but as a lived, felt reality. You've sat beside hospital beds, watching monitors beep slower, held hands as breathing patterns changed and then stopped, felt the strange, sudden emptiness when a body no longer contains the person you loved, attended funerals where the room overflowed with shared grief and funerals where only a handful gathered in quiet. Each encounter quietly redrew the map of your inner world. Death is no longer far away or theoretical. It's nearer, not necessarily tomorrow or next month, but no longer a vague point on a distant horizon. The remaining time feels more tangible, more finite, more precious. This knowing reshapes priorities without fanfare or drama. It makes petty arguments feel smaller and less worth the energy. It makes certain silences feel more urgent to fill with truth or affection. It grants permission to say no to what drains your spirit, to say yes to what feeds it, even if that nourishment is as simple as solitude with a good book, a walk in familiar air, a phone call with someone who remembers you young. You've earned the right to less patience with nonsense, with cruelty disguised as honesty, with manipulation or games or endless cycles of drama that lead nowhere useful. You've lived long enough to recognize patterns swiftly, to trust the quiet inner voice that says, "This does not serve my peace." You've earned clarity, freedom, the gentle audacity to protect your remaining energy for what truly matters. Over the years, you've woven small rituals that anchor you amid change. The same chipped ceramic mug for morning coffee, warmed in the microwave just long enough. A short walk at dusk, even if only to the mailbox and back. Noticing how the light changes on familiar trees. A weekly phone call with someone who shares your history, no matter how brief. Tending a few herbs or flowers on the windowsill, watching them grow or fade, lighting a candle on Friday evenings or Sunday mornings, just to mark time, reading a few pages of poetry or an old favorite novel before turning off the lamp. These are not grand ceremonies. They are quiet anchors, reminders of who you are when everything else shifts. They say, I am still here. These small things still bring me comfort. My life still has shape and meaning, even if quieter now. Some rituals you chose deliberately, naming them important. Others grew organically, small habits that became essential without conscious decision. Some replaced older rituals no longer possible because of distance, health, or circumstance. All of them help you move through days with a little more intention, a little more grace, a little more presence. You reflect sometimes on legacy, not in terms of statues or headlines or vast fortunes left behind, but in the small, real, enduring ways that actually touch lives. Not only what you leave materially, though photographs, letters, heirlooms, a favorite recipe card carry their own quiet stories, but the subtler inheritance, the way you treated waitstaff or neighbors when no one important was watching, the patience you showed a tired grandchild or a confused stranger, the honesty you practiced even when it cost comfort, the forgiveness you extended or struggled mightily to extend, the values you lived in front of children, grandchildren, friends, kindness, curiosity, resilience, gentleness, even on days when you fell far short of your own ideals. The stories you told that helped someone feel less alone in their own struggle. The ripples created simply by being present year after year in a world that sometimes forgets to notice the quiet ones. This legacy isn't waiting for after you're gone to begin. It's being written right now, in every small interaction, in the smile you gave the cashier who looked exhausted, in the apology offered without excuses or defensiveness, in the love given freely or protected carefully, in the boundaries drawn to preserve your own peace and energy. You hope, without clinging too tightly, that the overall memory people carry of you will lean toward kindness, that the light you brought outweighs the shadows you cast, that those you loved felt loved in ways they could name, that your time here added something gentle, something human to the world. You cannot control the final version of that story. You can only live as truthfully as possible each day with the light and understanding you have that day. Trust that even imperfect efforts, even stumbles, even hurts caused without intention, hold value because they were part of trying, of showing up, of loving in the only imperfect human way available to you. The darkness around you feels softer now, not vast and empty, not cold or threatening, just peaceful, a wide, gentle space that holds rather than swallows. Thoughts drift in like slow clouds on a windless afternoon sky. Some heavy with memory or old feeling, some light as breath or simple sensation. None demand action, none require solving, none ask for judgment. You can simply notice them arrive, watch them linger, let them drift away. Your breathing has deepened without any effort on your part. Slower, fuller, more even. Each exhale releases a little more held tension. The spaces between thoughts grow wider, quieter. In those widening spaces, stillness, presence. A simple being that needs no story, no analysis, no improvement. Just resting, just existing, just lying here in this body, in this life you've lived so thoroughly and honestly. You are exactly where you belong tonight, right here, in this bed, in this darkness, in this breath. Everything that needed doing today is done. Everything that needs doing tomorrow can wait patiently for tomorrow's light. Right now, there is only this inhale, this exhale, this gentle permission to let sleep come whenever it chooses, however it chooses. Your body knows the way to sleep by heart. It has traveled this path faithfully across a lifetime of nights. The ancient wisdom written into every cell, passed down through countless generations of humans before you, is still alive and reliable in you. Trust it completely. You've surrendered to this nightly mystery thousands upon thousands of times. If more mornings are granted, you'll do it thousands more. Each night, lie down and let go. Each day, if given, rise and meet what comes. The cycle holds you. The rhythm sustains you. Settle even deeper now. The accumulated years are no longer a burden to carry. They are ballast. They keep you steady, grounded, less easily tossed by every passing wind or worry. There is a bodily wisdom now that no book or teacher could ever impart, a knowing born of living inside this exact skin for decades upon decades. You read its signals with more patience than before, distinguishing between fleeting discomfort and something that truly needs care, knowing when rest is not optional, but essential. You're kinder to yourself these days. You pause and sit when fatigue first whispers instead of pushing through. You decline invitations without elaborate justifications or guilt. You accept help when it's offered, or ask for it when needed, without feeling diminished. These choices once felt like admissions of weakness or defeat. Now they feel like wisdom, like respect, like honoring the faithful companion that is your body. After all these years, reflect quietly, without hurry, on the thousands upon thousands of conversations that have filled your life. Casual exchanges at grocery checkouts or bus stops that brightened someone's day. Heart-to-hearts that stretched into early morning light, changing how you saw yourself or the world. Arguments that left scars and apologies that mended them over time. Words of comfort given at exactly the right moment to someone in pain. Words you wish you could take back. Words you're still quietly proud you found the courage to speak. You've grown more skilled at true listening, staying present instead of planning your response while the other person speaks. More comfortable saying, "I don't know," without shame. More willing to say, "I was wrong," without collapsing into self-defense. More open to being seen in vulnerability, rather than hiding behind certainty. These are quiet, profound victories of age, unsung, but real. The homes you've inhabited, each one a distinct chapter with its own atmosphere. The childhood house with the lilac bush by the front porch that bloomed every May. The first apartment where every creak and radiator clang felt like adventure. The family home echoing with growing children's voices, footsteps, music, doors opening and closing. The smaller place after the nest emptied, quieter, but yours again. The room or house or apartment where you rest tonight, with its own familiar smells and sounds. Some moves were chosen with excitement and hope. Some were forced by loss, finances, health, or life turning a corner you didn't see coming. Each transition required grieving the old place, letting go of routines, learning the new space, making it home again with small touches. You adapted every single time. You created comfort, rhythm, belonging wherever life placed you. That's a strength most people never name aloud, but it's one of your truest. This neighborhood breathes its own slow, steady rhythm around you. You know, when the delivery trucks roll through in the early morning, when school children pass by laughing or shouting, when certain dogs walk by at the same hour each day. You've watched new families move in with boxes and young children. Watched trees you remember as saplings stretch taller than the roofline. Watched older neighbors move away or pass on. You've stayed long enough to witness full cycles, not just seasons of weather, but seasons of human life. Births, growth, change, farewells. There's deep meaning in being a witness, in remaining in one place long enough to see patterns emerge, to understand cause and gentle effect, to recognize that everything changes and nothing stays the same forever. You are in winter now, in the metaphorical seasons of a human lifetime. Not the urgent green explosion of spring, not the long, generous abundance of summer, not even the colorful release and preparation of autumn. Winter calls for conservation, for drawing inward, doing less outwardly, being more inwardly, for letting non-essentials fall away without apology, for focusing on what is truly necessary: warmth, rest, connection, reflection. The world outside may still shout for productivity, visibility, relevance, busyness, but you know better now. Rest is not laziness, it is restoration. Reflection is not indulgence, it is integration. This quiet inward season has its own dignity, its own beauty, its own necessity. Your possessions carry stories when you touch them or even look at them. Old photographs curling slightly at the edges, faces frozen in moments you can still feel, letters tied with faded ribbon, handwriting you recognize instantly, the teapot your mother warmed every afternoon for company, the quilt a friend made during your hardest year, stitch by stitch, small drawings or school projects or holiday cards saved from when hands were tiny. You've begun the gentle, unhurried work of sorting, not driven by fear, but by care and practicality, keeping what still brings you comfort or memory in a positive way, passing on what can be explained while you're here to tell its story, releasing what no longer needs to be carried physically. Each object you hold opens a door to another time. The work is tender, emotional, sometimes bittersweet. It's also freeing, to lighten the load, to simplify, to make things easier for those who will come after. Regrets visit sometimes in these quiet nighttime hours. Words spoken in haste or anger that you cannot unsay. Opportunities turned away from fear, timing, or lack of courage. Time spent on pursuits that proved empty or distracting. People hurt, intentionally in a moment or unintentionally over time. But you've learned, slowly. Regret is useful only when it informs a different choice tomorrow. When it simply punishes, it is wasted suffering. You've practiced self-forgiveness, not casually or superficially, but earnestly, repeatedly. You acted with the understanding, the emotional resources, the courage, the wounds you carried at that time. Growth can arrive late in the afternoon of life and still matter deeply, still change things, still count. Joy has visited too. Real, piercing, unforgettable joy. The overwhelming rush of holding your newborn, feeling their heartbeat against yours. Falling in love so completely that the world looked brighter, colors more vivid, music more alive. Laughter with friends until your stomach ached and tears ran down your face. Sunsets that demanded you stop everything and watch in silence. Music that felt as if it had been written inside your own heart. Moments in nature, a forest path after rain, ocean waves at dawn, a mountain view that made your breath catch, reminding you that you are part of something vast and ongoing. These moments are proof, amid all the difficulty and loss, that life contains genuine beauty, genuine goodness, genuine reason for gratitude. What matters most has become clearer with time and experience. Deep connection with even a few people who truly see you, accept you, stay. Noticing beauty in ordinary places, a leaf's delicate veins, a stranger's unexpected smile, light falling across a familiar room, kindness offered and received without keeping score or expecting return. A quiet, personal sense of purpose, not necessarily world-altering, but meaningful to you. Showing up, adding small good where you can, participating in the shared human project of living and loving and letting go. Return to your breath once more. In, out. Each cycle a small gift of borrowed time. Each one an opportunity simply to be present here. Your mind has grown quieter still. The urgent thoughts have receded like tide going out. Regrets have been named, acknowledged, softened. Memories have been honored without clinging or rewriting. Wisdom has been quietly claimed as your own. You are whole in this moment, not flawless, not finished, whole, worthy, not because of accomplishments or productivity or perfection, but because you exist, because you've persisted through seasons you never expected, because you've loved and lost and continued loving anyway. The room holds you gently, familiar, safe, known by heart. Tomorrow will arrive when it arrives, with whatever it brings. You'll meet it as best you can, with whatever strength, patience, kindness remains that day. For now there is only this breath, this heartbeat, this gradual release into rest. The long echoes of your life settle now. Like dust after a long wind has passed, they no longer swirl or demand attention. They become part of the foundation beneath you. You've looked at them tonight with honesty and gentleness. Now let them rest with you. You are enough. You've always been enough. As sleep draws near, softly, unhurried, without force, let that single truth be the last gentle knowing, before knowing itself softens and fades into whatever dreams or dreamless peace may come. The fires of thought burn low, the stories grow still and quiet. The night holds you in its wide, gentle arms. Good night. You've journeyed far through time, through memory, through feeling tonight. Now journey softly, easily, into rest. Close your eyes, breathe, and let sleep find you.